The orbital settlement of Gray Harbor floated in quiet rotation above a pale gas giant. From the outside, it looked calm and dull, a ring of metal and lights turning slowly through space. Inside, it was never truly quiet. Air systems hummed, boots echoed on alloy floors, and many species tried to live close without fully understanding each other. Tysic lived in a small, human sector near the lower ring. His room was plain. A narrow bed, a metal table, a heater unit, and a compact food printer that he rarely used. Instead, the warm smell of bread often drifted from his door. Humans were one of the few groups allowed to use open heating plates, and Tysic had learned long ago how to make use of that permission. Every morning before his duty shift, he baked. He mixed flour, water, and yeast by hand, even though machines could do it faster. He said the hands mattered. When the dough rose, he waited. When it baked, he watched. Many who passed his door slowed their steps. Some smiled. Some pretended not to care while breathing deeper. SIK worked as a maintenance specialist. He fixed doors, vents, and warn seals. It was not a proud job, but it kept people alive. He greeted everyone the same way, with a nod and calm words. He never raised his voice. This made others uneasy. In a place where strength was often loud, quiet confidence felt strange. One afternoon, as Tysic pulled a loaf from the heat unit, a small figure stood in his doorway. She was short even for her species, with dark skin marked by faint silver lines that showed her clan origin. Her eyes were large and clear, always watching. Her name was Hana. She visited often. At first, she had come with other children, curious about the smell. Later, she came alone. Tysic never asked why. He simply broke the bread and shared it. "You are early today," Tysic said, placing the loaf on the table. Hana nodded once. "My lessons ended sooner." She climbed onto the chair across from him, her feet not touching the floor. She watched as he cut the bread into even pieces. He always cut evenly. Hana noticed such things. "You are precise," she said. Sik smiled lightly. "If the pieces are uneven, someone feels cheated." Hana thought about this while chewing. She often did. She observed humans the way others studied tools. After a moment, she placed her hands flat on the table. This was not a casual gesture in her culture. It meant a statement was coming. "Tysic," she said, "I have a formal request." He paused, knife in hand. "From you?" "Yes." He set the knife down. "All right. What is it?" Hana looked at him directly. "I request that you marry my mother." The words hung in the warm air. Sik blinked once. Then again. He checked the room, as if expecting someone else to appear and laugh. No one did. "Hana," he said carefully, "I think you are confused about what marriage is." She shook her head. "I am not. This is not something a child asks." "In my culture, children identify stability risks," she replied. Tysic felt his heart speed up. "Your mother is very important. I have seen her. She would never agree to this." Hana tilted her head. "That is why I'm asking you first." He stood and moved to the window, staring at the slow curve of the station wall. Yuri. He knew the name. Everyone did. Hana's mother was known across Gray Harbor. A leader, a fighter, someone who had ended 3 boarding attempts without mercy, someone whose presence made rooms go silent. Tysic was a man who baked bread. "You do not understand," he said. "Your mother is dangerous." "Yes," Hana said calmly. "That is the problem?" He turned back to her. "That is not a problem. That is how your people survive." "Not forever," Hana replied. She slid a small data slate onto the table. Tysic did not touch it. "I have observed you for 2 cycles," Hana continued. "You feed others without demand. You repair what is broken, even when it is not assigned. You do not seek dominance. You do not panic. You bake. Taisik rubbed his face. Those are not reasons to marry someone. They are survival traits, Hana said. There was a long silence. The station lights dimmed slightly as the cycle shifted. You should go home, Taisik said at last. This is not appropriate. Hana stood. I will. She paused at the door. You will consider it. That is not, you will, she said, without anger or threat. Then she left. Taisik did not sleep that night. By morning, rumors moved faster than he did. Jisoo found him near a pressure lock, holding a tool he had already fixed. Did you propose to an alien war leader? Jisoo asked. Taisik groaned. I did not. They say her child chose you. I did not agree to anything. Jisoo studied him. Still, that child is serious. Her people do not joke. I know, Taisik said quietly. Across the station, eyes followed him. Not with fear, with interest. Humans were used to being measured by strength, weapons, or numbers. This was different. Hana returned the next day. And the next. Each time she said little. Each time she watched. Far above them, Yuri prepared for another security briefing, unaware that a quiet human with flour on his hands had been marked as a solution. And in Gray Harbor, something had shifted. Not with noise or force, but with a question no one had thought to ask before. Hana did not wait for a response. She went about her days as if nothing unusual had happened, walking through the hallways, speaking quietly to the station clerks, and watching Taisik when he repaired vents or carried supplies. He noticed her presence everywhere, like a quiet shadow. Sometimes she offered observations that seemed ordinary, but Taisik knew they were carefully chosen tests. He tried to avoid her for several days, focusing on work and routines. But each time he returned to his quarters, there she was, sitting cross-legged on the floor, studying a small device he had left out. She always looked calm and steady, and when she spoke, it was measured. Why are you quiet when the others speak so loudly? She asked one afternoon. Taisik considered her question. Because loud words do not always solve problems. Hana nodded. Your kind observes and acts quietly. It is unusual. Is that so strange? He asked. Yes, strange and valuable. That evening, the request she had made weighed on him more than any work task. He wondered how a child could see qualities in him that adults, including other humans, ignored. The more he thought about it, the more he realized Hana's words were not childish. She spoke of his calmness, fairness, and persistence in small tasks, qualities that could matter greatly in a larger struggle. Somehow, the child understood what he had never considered his strength. Hana finally explained why she wanted him to marry her mother. They sat near a small observation window that looked out on the rotating rings of the station. The gas giant below reflected soft light across their faces. My mother is strong, Hana said. She can fight. She can lead. But her strength alone is dangerous. She needs balance. Taisik frowned. Balance? You mean someone to stop her from harming others? No, Hana said. Someone to stay, someone who does not seek power. She will follow her instincts in battle. She will defend her people. But she cannot manage every problem with strength alone. Humans like you can manage what we cannot. Taisik did not fully understand. Why me? You are calm, Hana replied. You care for others without expectation. You can create order. You do not panic. You bake. You build. You help. All these things matter. Not just in combat, but in life. My mother will listen to you when others would not. And you will not try to control her. He looked away, feeling the weight of her words. He had never thought of his patience and kindness as useful beyond his small sector. Here, in a place that valued strength and fear. These things could be considered powerful, even if I understand what you are saying, he said finally. I am not sure I can meet her standards. You can, Hana said firmly. Because you are human. Humans survive by adapting. That is why I chose you. He leaned back in his chair, letting out a quiet sigh. Adaptation was something humans did quietly and persistently. They did not often shout about it. They baked, repaired, and lived. Somehow, these simple acts gave humans the ability to thrive in dangerous or unfamiliar environments. For the next few days, Taisik observed Hana more closely. She had a strange combination of blunt logic and cautious respect. She followed routines, but she also made small, unpredictable changes to see how others would react. In many ways, she reminded him of a young human learning rules by bending them to see consequences. Only she had the experience of centuries compressed into a few cycles of her species' time. He also began noticing patterns in the station. Alien families, leaders, and guards often relied on dominance or fear to control situations. They moved with authority and demanded attention. Humans relied on observation and improvisation. They fixed problems quietly and offered support without waiting for acknowledgement. This difference fascinated him. Even Hana recognized it, and she had chosen him to demonstrate its value. One evening, Taisik prepared another batch of bread. Hana appeared at the doorway, holding a small notebook of observations. You do not need to prepare it for me, she said. I know, he replied. I do it for everyone. It keeps things normal. She stepped inside anyway, eyes on the rising dough. Normal is rare in this place, she said. Taisik smiled faintly. Then it is worth maintaining. Hana watched him knead. She rarely spoke, letting her gaze measure his movements. It was her way of understanding him. After a few minutes, she asked, If my mother disagrees, will you leave? He paused. I would not want to cause harm. I cannot force someone to accept me. Hana nodded. That is what I expected. You do not push. That is rare. The days passed with small lessons. Hana guided him without direct instruction. She asked questions about human habits, about how he solved problems, and how he handled fear. He explained things slowly, not because they were difficult, but because she listened carefully to each word. She asked why he did certain things, why humans baked or prepared in small ways, and why he acted calmly in a stressful station. Through this, Taisik began to understand what Hana meant. Human qualities were subtle, but they allowed people to survive and even influence powerful beings without using weapons. She had recognized that before he had. One afternoon, the station experienced a minor breach alarm. A small transport capsule had malfunctioned, drifting close to a docking hub. Many residents panicked, running in every direction. Taisik grabbed a control tablet and began coordinating emergency procedures. Hana followed silently, recording his methods. He directed humans and aliens alike, guiding them to safety, calming disputes, and improvising solutions. The breach was minor, yet the speed and calm with which humans responded made the aliens pause. They were used to loud, forceful demonstrations of skill. This quiet competence was different, effective and strangely commanding. After the event, Hana approached him. See what I mean? She said. You can act where others would panic. Your calm changes things. I just do what needs doing, he said, still a little breathless. Hana smiled faintly. Humans do more than survive. They stabilize everything around them. That is why I asked. Taisik looked out at the station rings, lights reflecting on the metallic surfaces. He was beginning to realize the truth of her statement. He had never thought of himself as someone who could influence others simply by being present. In Hana's eyes, and perhaps in the eyes of her mother, this might be exactly what was needed. Later that night, he could not sleep. He sat by the window, considering what it meant for a human to be valued in such a place. Not for weapons, not for size, not for command, but for the quiet acts that maintained life. Hana's choice was not just a child's whim. It was a calculation. And perhaps he realized it was correct. In the corner of his room, a small loaf of bread sat cooling. Hana had not taken it yet. And in that loaf, Taisik understood a symbol of human strength, simple, persistent, and nourishing. It was what she saw, and what he had yet to see in himself. Taisik had never met anyone like Yuri before. The first time he entered her quarters, the air seemed heavier. Every object had its place. Every surface was clean and precise. She did not rise to greet him. She did not speak. She watched as he approached, her eyes steady and piercing. He felt measured in every step. He carried a small gift of bread, the first time he had brought food to her. It was warm, crusty, and smelled faintly sweet. He set it down without a word, stepping back. Yuri did not touch it immediately. She tilted her head, examining it instead. Hana stepped aside, giving him space. She had insisted he meet her mother properly. This was no casual visit. The child's request carried weight, and Taisik understood that. "Sit," Yuri said finally, in a voice that held authority without anger. Taisik obeyed. "You are the human my daughter has chosen," she said. Her tone was flat, not accusatory, but full of scrutiny. "Why?" Taisik swallowed. "I am not sure. She said she saw qualities in me, things that might help you." Yuri's eyes narrowed. "Qualities that help me? Or her?" He thought about that. "Both, I suppose. I do not want to interfere. I only want to help if it is needed." Yuri leaned back, her posture relaxed but still commanding. She spoke of her life, of her responsibilities, and of the dangers that surrounded her clan. She explained how power without control led to mistakes, how unbalanced strength could destroy everything it was meant to protect. Taisik listened carefully, nodding as he tried to understand the customs and expectations. He was not intimidated by weapons or stories. He was listening. "You bake," Yuri said suddenly. "Why?" "I bake for people," he said. "It makes them feel safe. It gives them warmth. It reminds them of home." She considered this. Home is weak. Home is comfort. Comfort is not survival. "Sometimes it is," Taisik said. "When comfort gives people the strength to continue, to act, to protect, it is survival." For the first time, Yuri allowed a small smile. It was fleeting, but it reached her eyes. Hana observed quietly, satisfied. The next test came quickly. The station received news of an approaching rogue vessel. It had no authorization to dock, and had ignored repeated signals. The station's alarm blared, lights flashing red. Everyone moved with urgency, some with panic. Yuri prepared her security team, ready to act with force. Taisik had no weapons. His tools were for maintenance and bread, yet he did not hesitate. He moved through the chaos, directing humans and aliens alike. Doors were secured, civilians guided, power circuits checked and rerouted. He made quick decisions, simple ones that stabilized the situation. He spoke calmly, giving instructions that could be understood even by those not used to human logic. Yuri watched. She saw his method, his calm, his ability to coordinate without fear. It was not loud or violent. It did not require dominance. It was efficient. And it worked. When the rogue vessel attempted a minor boarding maneuver, Yuri led her team with precision, but Taisik had already organized the station to prevent the crew from reaching civilians. The humans did not fight with weapons, but with careful placement and control. Every door, every vent, every escape route had been thought through. By the time the station alarm quieted, the threat was neutralized. Yuri approached Taisik again, her expression unreadable. "You are not weak," she said. "You do not dominate. You do not command with fear. Yet you influence and protect. Explain this." Taisik shrugged. "I do what is needed. I stay calm. I help when I can. I do not think about power. I think about people." Yuri nodded slowly. "My daughter is wise to see this. Perhaps humans are more dangerous than I realized. Not in weaponry, but in their quiet strength. They can survive and persist where others would fall." For the next days, Taisik stayed close. He repaired critical systems, organized supplies, and even helped train some of the younger humans and aliens on small problem-solving techniques. Yuri observed him constantly, testing him silently. She asked questions about how he would handle conflict, shortages, or betrayal. Each time he responded with honesty and simplicity. Hana watched him too. She noted the moments when Yuri's respect surfaced. A nod, a brief acknowledgement, a careful question. Taisik's presence challenged the expectations of both mother and daughter. It was subtle, but it was powerful. One evening, the three of them were in Yuri's quarters. Taisik prepared food, while Hana and Yuri reviewed station reports. It was quiet. The first time they had shared this peaceful moment. Taisik worked steadily, kneading dough, rolling it carefully, and placing it in the small oven. The smell filled the room. Even Yuri seemed to relax slightly, inhaling as if tasting memories. "You do this for everyone?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Even for those I do not know. Everyone deserves warmth." Yuri considered this. She had protected her people for many cycles, but she had rarely thought of comfort as a strategy. Yet in this moment, she saw the effect it had on the room, on Hana, on herself. It gave patience and calm, which were needed to make the right choices. After the bread finished, Taisik sliced it and offered it to them. Hana smiled, taking a piece carefully. Yuri took hers and tasted it, nodding almost imperceptibly. "You are more than I expected," she said quietly. Taisik looked at her, unsure what she meant. "I only do what I can." "That is enough," Yuri replied. "You do not seek control. You do not seek reward. Yet your actions shape everything." That is why Hana asked. The realization struck him. The child had not only chosen him, but had calculated a partnership. She understood strength, balance, and survival. And in this room, with bread cooling on the counter, Taisik began to understand the depth of what Hana had seen in him. From that day forward, his interactions with Yuri shifted. She no longer watched him with caution alone. She allowed questions, small advice, and even brief instructions on station protocols. Their relationship remained formal, but it grew subtly. Taisik felt the weight of the child's request more heavily, but he also felt a quiet reassurance. This was not about human dominance. This was about partnership, balance, and respect. Hana watched all of it, recording her observations, smiling at the moments when the human quietly influenced her mother. She had made her choice, and now, slowly, her mother was beginning to understand why. The station around them continued to function. Threats came and went, but inside the quarters, a different kind of power was being recognized, one that was quiet, persistent, and profoundly human. The station had been quiet for several days, a calm that was unusual in Gray Harbor. Taisik continued his daily routines, baking and repairing systems, while observing the flow of activity around him. Hana followed, silently recording notes and watching carefully. Yuri remained close, though her attention was divided between her motherly duties and station security. Suddenly, an alert rang out through the station. Another vessel, unregistered and unknown, approached the docking hub. Unlike the previous minor incident, this one was larger, its presence more threatening. Lights flashed red and orange, and alarms blared across the habitat. Humans immediately moved to action, calm and organized. Tysick grabbed a tablet and began issuing clear instructions. He guided crews to secure sections, reroute energy, and reinforce critical points. Some aliens followed, unsure at first, then adapting as they observed his composure. Yuri gathered her security team, preparing for possible combat. She glanced at Tysick, measuring his reactions. He did not carry weapons, yet he moved with authority, coordinating and directing efficiently. It was quiet authority, not loud or forceful. His presence stabilized the station without intimidation. Hana observed closely. She had requested Tysick's involvement because she understood that humans could influence outcomes differently. And now, the situation proved her point. The humans did not fight recklessly, nor did they seek glory. They acted, protected, and maintained control through understanding and resourcefulness. TSIK instructed teams to use environmental controls to limit access points for the rogue vessel. Emergency lights guided civilians to safe zones. Ventilation was adjusted to create barriers, and communication lines were rerouted to ensure constant updates. Even small tools, often overlooked, were used ingeniously to reinforce station systems. Aliens watched as the humans acted with precision. Some had underestimated them before. Now, the efficiency of their planning and execution became evident. Tysick moved through the station, helping repair minor damages as he directed teams. His calm voice gave clear guidance, and his hands never trembled despite the urgency. Yuri approached him briefly, observing closely. "Your methods are different," she said. "I do what I can," Tysick replied. "Panic solves nothing." "Different," she repeated, considering his words. "Effective." Hannah smiled slightly, proud of her choice. She knew humans could survive not by dominating, but by understanding, by observing, and by acting precisely when it mattered. Tysick was living proof. Hours passed, and the station slowly regained control. The rogue vessel's crew, unable to breach critical systems or reach civilians, eventually retreated. The emergency subsided, and quiet returned to the habitat. Humans and aliens alike were exhausted but unharmed. Tysick had guided them through the crisis without a single display of aggressive force. His strategy relied on intellect, observation, and calm persistence. Later, Tysick repaired a damaged hatch in the lower sector. Hannah observed him from nearby, while Yuri stood in silence, her expression unreadable. She had seen humans in conflict before, but rarely had she seen one act with such quiet control and efficiency. It was not brute force that saved the station, but methodical thinking and careful coordination. "Humans are not strong in the same way we are," Yuri said softly. "But their strength is different. They can survive, influence, and persist quietly." Tysick looked at her. "It is not about being stronger. It is about doing what must be done." Yuri considered this. "Your presence changes the environment. People follow you without fear. They act even when they might have panicked. That is valuable." He nodded. "It is what I know how to do." Hannah finally spoke. "See, this is why I asked you. My mother needs someone like you, not to fight, but to maintain balance, to influence without forcing. Humans are dangerous because they persist where others fail. They stay, even when it is difficult. They endure." Tysick felt the weight of her words. Hannah's observation was not childish. She had calculated, understood, and predicted. Her choice was deliberate, not whimsical. Over the next few days, the station continued to stabilize. Tysick worked alongside both humans and aliens, bridging gaps that had previously caused tension. He repaired systems, helped organize logistics, and trained residents in simple yet effective methods for handling unexpected crises. His presence reminded everyone that patience and observation were as important as strength and weaponry. Yuri began to interact more with him, asking questions about human routines and logic. She tested his patience and composure in subtle ways, posing moral dilemmas or unexpected problems. Taisik responded consistently, calmly explaining his reasoning. He did not dominate. He did not demand. He acted with integrity and clarity, qualities that the aliens had rarely seen, combined in one person. Hana watched silently, documenting each moment. Her faith in her choice grew. Taisik's calm, his quiet influence, and his simple acts of care demonstrated exactly why humans could survive and thrive in ways her own species sometimes overlooked. In the quiet evening, Taisik baked bread in the communal kitchen. The smell spread through the station, drawing curious glances from residents. Hana took a seat nearby, and Yuri stood silently, observing. The three of them shared a rare moment of peace. Taisik's hands worked skillfully, kneading and shaping the dough. Hana and Yuri watched, each recognizing the power in small, deliberate actions. You create comfort, Yuri said softly. That comfort gives people strength. I understand now. Taisik looked up, surprised. You understand? Yes, she said. Humans endure because they maintain home, warmth, and care, even in difficult times. That is their power. That is why my daughter asked you. Hana smiled faintly. See, Mother? Humans are strong not because they dominate, but because they endure. They stay when others might leave. Taisik set the dough aside, letting it rise. I never thought of it that way, he admitted. Most humans do not, Hana replied. But you act naturally. That is why I chose you. The evening continued quietly, with the three of them sharing bread and silence. The station remained secure, the threat averted, and the future uncertain, but manageable. Taisik realized that human strength was subtle but undeniable. It influenced without force, stabilized without threat, and endured when others might falter. Hana leaned back, satisfied with the results of her choice. Yuri nodded quietly, acknowledging the value of the human presence. And Taisik, the quiet baker and problem solver, understood the significance of his role. Not through weapons or command, but through calm, patient, and deliberate action. He had reshaped the environment around him. And in that, humanity's quiet power was finally recognized. The station had returned to a quiet rhythm after the recent threats. Systems hummed normally, lights cycled evenly, and the inhabitants moved about in calm routines. Taisik continued his daily work, repairing equipment, baking bread, and observing the flow of life around him. Hana followed closely, recording her observations, while Yuri monitored the station, but with a different perspective now. Yuri had come to understand the human strength that Hana had first recognized. It was not loud or violent, but persistent, quiet, and subtle. It could influence, stabilize, and endure where others might fail. Her respect for Taisik had grown. She had seen his actions in crisis, in calm, and even in simple moments, and she recognized the value of his presence. One morning, Taisik was kneading dough when Hana approached, holding a small device with messages and data from the station. The council has reviewed your actions, she said. They are impressed. They have never seen a human act this way in our protocols. Taisik glanced up. I just did what was needed. Hana shook her head. That is what makes it remarkable. Humans endure without seeking reward. They act because it is necessary, not for recognition. Yuri entered quietly, watching from a corner. It is true, she said. Your actions have changed how we see humans. Not as weak, but as capable partners. You maintain balance without asserting dominance. That is rare. Taisik felt a weight on his shoulders, the significance of his role settling in. Hana had chosen him not out of whim, but because she recognized a potential that even he had overlooked. Her faith in his abilities was profound and precise. As the day progressed, minor incidents tested the station again. A power fluctuation, a small air leak, and a miscommunication among alien workers. Each time, Tysick responded with calm efficiency. He did not rush or panic. He observed, acted, and corrected the issues with care and precision. Those around him began to see why Hannah's choice was wise. The humans did not rely on fear, intimidation, or weaponry. They relied on patience, understanding, and careful action. In the evening, Yuri finally spoke with Tysick alone. They were in the observation room, overlooking the station's main ring. Stars and distant planets glittered through the reinforced glass. The room was quiet, almost serene. "You have endured," Yuri said. "You have acted without seeking control, without demanding recognition. Yet you have influenced everything around you. I understand now why my daughter chose you." Tysick did not respond immediately. He felt the gravity of her words. I never thought of myself this way," he admitted. "You are human," Yuri said simply. "You endure. You stabilize. You persist. That is why you are needed. That is why I accept this union." Tysick looked at her, surprised. He had not expected agreement nor affirmation. But here it was. It was not about power or dominance. It was about balance, partnership, and mutual respect. Hannah entered quietly, standing beside her mother. "See, I was right," she said. "Humans endure. They stay. They act when others falter. That is why you are accepted, Tysick." Tysick felt a mixture of relief, awe, and humility. The small human who baked bread, repaired systems, and observed carefully had become central to the balance of the station. His quiet strength, unnoticed by many, had proven vital. Hannah's faith had been justified. Over the next few days, preparations for the formal acknowledgement of the union began. The council of both human and alien representatives gathered. They witnessed Tysick in action, observing, repairing, coordinating, and baking. Each act demonstrated human endurance and quiet influence. The council members, who had initially doubted him, now recognized the value he brought to the station and to Yuri. On the day of the formal acknowledgement, Tysick, Yuri, and Hannah stood together in the central hall. The council spoke, affirming the partnership and noting the humans' contributions to the safety and stability of Gray Harbor. Tysick felt the full weight of the moment. This was not about ceremony alone. It was about recognition, respect, and balance between species. Hannah, standing proudly beside them, whispered to Tysick, "You see? Humans are strong in ways others cannot always measure. They endure because they care. They act because it is needed. They bake, they repair, they protect. That is why I chose you." Tysick nodded, finally understanding the depth of her observation. He had survived, not through dominance, not through weapons, but through calm, deliberate, and persistent action. And in doing so, he had earned the respect and trust of one of the strongest species in the station. In the quiet aftermath, Tysick returned to his kitchen. He kneaded dough, shaped it carefully, and placed it in the oven. Yuri entered and stood beside him, observing, without words, but with a presence that spoke of acceptance and respect. Hannah sat nearby, recording quietly. The station was safe. The threats had been managed. And the human, who baked bread and repaired systems, had reshaped the understanding of strength. The smell of baking bread filled the hallways, and for a moment, all seemed calm. The quiet, persistent human presence had changed everything. Yuri's respect, Hannah's faith, and the council's acknowledgement all confirmed what Tysick had never realized about himself. Humans endured. Humans stabilized. Humans influenced quietly, but profoundly. And in that understanding, the station of Gray Harbor found a new kind of strength won, born not of weapons or dominance, but of quiet persistence, careful action, and enduring humanity.